In the year 2045, the world had finally begun to recover from the devastating zombie apocalypse that had nearly wiped out humanity. The few survivors had banded together, forming small communities and learning to rebuild their lives in the aftermath of the chaos. Among these survivors was Dr. Lena Novak, a brilliant scientist who had dedicated her life to studying the virus that had caused the outbreak. Lena had lost everything during the apocalypse: her family, her friends, and her entire way of life. But she refused to give up hope. She believed that someday she would find a way to cure the virus and restore the world to its former glory. As the years passed, Lena and her team of researchers made slow but steady progress. They discovered that the virus was not natural, but had been engineered by an unknown entity. This revelation only fueled Lena's determination to find a cure. One day, as Lena was working late in her lab, she received a frantic call from one of the other survivor communities. They had spotted strange lights in the sky and were reporting unusual activity on the outskirts of their settlement. Lena and a small group of armed survivors set out to investigate. As they approached the area, they were shocked to discover a massive alien ship hovering just above the ground. The ship was unlike anything they had ever seen before: sleek, black, and ominous. Suddenly, a beam of light shot out from the ship, and a group of tall, slender beings emerged. They were humanoid in shape, but their skin was a sickly shade of green, and their eyes were large and black. The aliens approached the survivors, their movements fluid and graceful. Lena stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. She had no idea what to expect, but she knew that she had to protect her people at all costs. To her surprise, the aliens began to speak in perfect English. "Greetings, humans," the leader said, its voice deep and resonant. "We come in peace." Lena was skeptical. "Who are you?" she demanded. "What do you want from us?" The alien leader smiled, revealing a row of sharp, pointed teeth. "We are the Zorgons," it said. "We have been watching your planet for many years, waiting for the right moment to make contact." Lena's mind raced. She had so many questions, but she knew that she had to be careful. These aliens could be dangerous, and she couldn't risk putting her people in harm's way. "Why did you wait until now?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. The Zorgon leader's smile widened. "We needed to be sure that your species was ready," it said. "The zombie virus was a test to see how you would respond to a global catastrophe. And you passed." Lena's blood ran cold. "You caused the zombie apocalypse," she whispered, her voice trembling with rage. The Zorgon leader nodded. "It was necessary," it said. "We needed to see if humanity was worthy of joining the galactic community. And now we have come to lay claim to your planet." Lena's mind reeled. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. These aliens had caused the deaths of billions of people, all for some twisted test. And now they wanted to take over the planet that the survivors had fought so hard to reclaim. She knew that she had to act fast. She signaled to her team, and they raised their weapons ready to fight. But the Zorgons were too quick. With a wave of their hands, they sent a pulse of energy that knocked the survivors to the ground, rendering them unconscious. When Lena woke, she found herself inside the alien ship, strapped to a cold metal table. The Zorgon leader loomed over her, its black eyes glittering with malice. "You are a fighter," it said, its voice filled with admiration. "We could use someone like you in our ranks." Lena struggled against her bonds, but it was no use. She was trapped, at the mercy of these alien invaders. "I'll never join you," she spat, her eyes blazing with defiance. "I'll die before I help you take over my planet." The Zorgon leader chuckled. "We shall see," it said, reaching for a tray of strange-looking instruments. Over the next several days, or was it weeks, Lena had lost all sense of time. The Zorgons subjected her to a series of brutal experiments. They probed her mind, extracting information about Earth's defenses and the locations of the remaining human settlements. They injected her with strange substances that left her writhing in agony, her body convulsing with pain. Through it all, Lena held onto her resolve. She would not break, no matter what they did to her. She thought of her people, the survivors who were counting on her to protect them. She couldn't let them down. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the Zorgons seemed to tire of their experiments. They unstrapped Lena from the table and dragged her to a small, dimly lit cell. There they left her to rot, alone and forgotten. But Lena refused to give up. Using her scientific knowledge and her keen intellect, she began to study her surroundings, searching for any weakness in the ship's defenses. She memorized the guard schedules and the layout of the corridors, biding her time until the moment was right. One night, when the ship was quiet and the guards were few, Lena made her move. She jimmied the lock on her cell door and slipped out into the corridor, her heart pounding with adrenaline. She crept through the ship, avoiding the patrols and security cameras with a skill born of desperation. Finally, she reached the ship's control room, where the Zorgon leader and its top lieutenants were gathered around a holographic display of Earth. Lena burst into the room, catching the aliens off guard. She grabbed a weapon from a nearby console and aimed it at the leader, her hands shaking with fury. "You'll pay for what you've done," she growled, her voice low and deadly. The Zorgon leader looked up at her, its eyes widening in surprise. "You are more resourceful than we thought," it said, sounding almost impressed. Lena ignored the compliment. She had no time for games. "Call off the invasion," she demanded. "Leave my planet alone." The Zorgon leader hesitated, then nodded slowly. It turned to its lieutenants and barked out a series of commands in a harsh, guttural language. The holographic display flickered and went dark. Lena kept her weapon trained on the aliens as she backed out of the room, her heart racing. She had done it. She had stopped the invasion and saved her people. But as she made her way back to the escape pods, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The Zorgons had underestimated her once, but they wouldn't make that mistake again. They would be back, and next time they would be even more ruthless. Lena knew that she had to be ready. She had to find a way to protect her people, to build a world that could withstand any threat, whether it came from zombies or aliens or anything else. As she climbed into the escape pod and blasted off into space, Lena felt a newfound sense of purpose. She had been given a second chance, a chance to make a difference, and she would not waste it. She would return to Earth and share what she had learned with the other survivors. Together, they would rebuild their world stronger and more united than ever before. They would create a future worth fighting for, a future where humanity could thrive, no matter what challenges lay ahead. As the escape pod hurtled through the vast expanse of space, Lena closed her eyes and smiled. She had hope, and that was enough. No matter what the future held, she knew that she would face it head-on, with courage and determination. For the sake of her people, for the sake of the world, she would never give up. Years passed, and the survivors on Earth worked tirelessly to rebuild their shattered world. They formed new communities, new alliances, and new ways of life. They learned to harness the power of science and technology to create a world that was stronger, smarter, and more resilient than ever before. Lena became a leader among her people, guiding them with wisdom and compassion. She never forgot the horrors she had endured at the hands of the Zorgons, but she refused to let that trauma define her. Instead, she used it as fuel, driving her to work harder, to push herself and her people to new heights. Under Lena's guidance, the survivors made incredible strides. They developed new sources of clean energy, new methods of agriculture, and new ways of communicating and collaborating across vast distances. They even began to venture beyond the confines of Earth, exploring the stars and making contact with other intelligent species. But even as they made progress, Lena knew that the threat of the Zorgons still loomed large. She never stopped scanning the skies, never stopped preparing for the day when the aliens would return. And return they did, a decade after their first invasion attempt. But this time, the survivors were ready. They had built a network of defenses, a web of sensors and weapons that could detect and destroy any alien threat. When the Zorgon ships appeared on the horizon, Lena and her people were there to meet them. They fought with everything they had, using every tool and every tactic at their disposal. It was a brutal, bloody battle, but in the end, the survivors emerged victorious. The Zorgon leader, defeated and humiliated, was brought before Lena in chains. She looked down at the alien who had caused so much pain and suffering, and she felt a strange sense of pity. "You underestimated us," she said softly. "You thought we were weak, that we would crumble under the weight of your tests and your invasions. But you were wrong. We are strong, stronger than you could ever imagine. And we will never stop fighting for our world, for our future." The Zorgon leader looked up at Lena, its eyes filled with a mixture of anger and respect. "You have proven yourselves worthy adversaries," it said. "But this is not over. We will return. And next time, we will not be so easily defeated." Lena nodded, her eyes hard and unyielding. "We'll be ready," she said. "No matter how many times you come back, no matter how hard you try to destroy us, we will always be here, standing strong. This is our world, and we will never let you take it from us." With those words, Lena turned and walked away, leaving the Zorgon leader to its fate. She knew that the battle was far from over, that there would be many more challenges and threats to come. But she also knew that her people were ready, that they had the strength and the courage to face whatever lay ahead. As she looked out over the rebuilt cities and the thriving communities, Lena felt a sense of pride and hope. They had come so far, had overcome so much, and they would keep going, keep fighting, keep building a better world, no matter what the universe threw at them. For they were survivors, and they would never give up. They would never stop dreaming of a brighter future, a future where all beings could live in peace and harmony. And they would never stop working to make that dream a reality, one day at a time, one battle at a time. As the years went by, the survivors continued to thrive under Lena's leadership. They expanded their reach, establishing new colonies on other planets and forging alliances with friendly alien species. They shared their technology and their knowledge, working together to create a better future for all. But even as they celebrated their successes, Lena knew that the Zorgons were still out there, plotting their revenge. She spent long hours in her lab, working on new weapons and defenses, always staying one step ahead of the enemy. And then one day the unthinkable happened. A massive Zorgon fleet appeared in the skies above Earth, armed with weapons that made their previous invasions look like child's play. The survivors fought bravely, but they were outmatched and outgunned. In a matter of hours, the Zorgons had taken control of the planet, enslaving the human population and claiming Earth as their own. Lena was captured and brought before the Zorgon leader, who looked down at her with a twisted smile. "You thought you could beat us," it said, its voice dripping with malice. "But you were wrong. We are the superior species, and we will always prevail." Lena looked up at the alien, her eyes blazing with defiance. "You may have won this battle," she said, her voice steady and strong, "but you haven't won the war. We will never stop fighting, never stop resisting, and one day we will take back what is ours." The Zorgon leader laughed, a harsh, grating sound that echoed through the chamber. "We shall see," it said, motioning for its guards to take Lena away. For months, Lena and the other survivors toiled under the Zorgon's brutal regime. They were forced to work in the mines and the factories producing weapons and technology for their alien overlords. They were subjected to cruel experiments and punishments, their spirits slowly being broken day by day. But even in the darkest of times, Lena refused to give up hope. She gathered a small group of rebels, working in secret to undermine the Zorgon's rule. They sabotaged equipment, stole supplies, and gathered intelligence, always staying one step ahead of their captors. And then one day, they saw their chance. The Zorgons were preparing for a massive celebration, a display of their power and dominance over the galaxy. They let their guard down, and Lena and her rebels struck. They infiltrated the Zorgon command center, planting explosives and hacking into the alien computer systems. They sent out a distress call to their allies on other planets, urging them to come to Earth's aid. And then they detonated the bombs, unleashing chaos and destruction across the Zorgon ranks. The battle that followed was fierce and bloody, but the survivors fought with a ferocity born of desperation. They were joined by their alien allies, who brought their own weapons and ships to bear against the Zorgon fleet. In the end, the Zorgons were defeated, their ships destroyed and their leaders captured or killed. Lena stood atop the ruins of the command center, looking out over the devastation with a sense of grim satisfaction. They had won, but at a terrible cost. So many lives had been lost, so much damage had been done, but they had proven once and for all that humanity would never be conquered, never be broken. In the years that followed, the survivors rebuilt once again, stronger and more united than ever before. They formed a new galactic alliance, working together with their alien allies to maintain peace and prosperity across the stars. They explored new worlds and made new discoveries, always pushing the boundaries of what was possible. And through it all, Lena remained a beacon of hope and strength, a reminder of the indomitable human spirit. She continued to lead her people, guiding them through the challenges and the triumphs that lay ahead. She knew that there would always be threats, always be enemies to face. But she also knew that as long as they stood together, as long as they fought for what was right, they could overcome anything. As Lena looked up at the stars, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. They had come so far, had endured so much, and yet they had never lost sight of what mattered most, the bonds of friendship and love that held them together, the hope and the courage that drove them forward. And so, the survivors continued on, facing the unknown with brave hearts and unbreakable spirits. They had seen the worst that the universe had to offer, and they had emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever before. They were ready for whatever lay ahead, ready to build a future that was bright and full of promise. For they were the survivors, the ones who had endured the zombie apocalypse and the alien invasions. They had faced the darkness and emerged into the light, stronger and more united than ever before. And they would never stop fighting, never stop believing, never stop dreaming of a better tomorrow.